Do you ever feel like you're stuck as an entrepreneur? Perhaps it's time to invest in yourself, invest in your personal development, invest in your personal growth. Hey, I'm J.R. Lay. Welcome back to another episode of the Level Up Business Podcast. Now, I can tell you from firsthand experience, I waited too long. I waited too long to make the investment in myself and my own personal growth. In fact, it took me 10 years of creating unnecessary pain and suffering for those around me, both personally and professionally, to finally seek help. But here's the secret. As Jim Rohn notes, quote, your level of success rarely exceeds your level of personal development. This is why I'm excited to welcome my friend Michael Pine for today's conversation. And before we get into today's conversation, if you're a B2B entrepreneur, I'm willing to bet that you have unique wisdom. That you have a unique story, just like the story that Michael Pine is going to share with you today. Now, maybe you've thought about sharing that story with video content on social media, or perhaps you've thought about writing a best-selling book, but you let these self-limiting beliefs stop you from sharing your unique wisdom. You tell yourself lies that keep you from telling your story to help others level up their business. So if you've been thinking about how to elevate your brand so that you can increase your revenue, send me a text right now, 832-240-1922, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to turn video content, just like the one that you're watching, turn video content into a best-selling book simply by having a conversation like the one Michael Pine and I are about to have. Welcome, Michael. It is so good to share time with you today, buddy, and actually record one of our conversations.
Yeah, some of them shouldn't have been recorded.
That's right. And I want to say before, the way I want to take this is around personal development, spiritual development, and how all of that connects into the entrepreneurial journey. And before we get too far down that path, what is good for you? What's been going well personally and or professionally in your world?
You know, it's been the good stuff. It's been a good personal recovery, just understanding what makes me tick. We go through seasons, right? And after winter comes spring, and then every season you have to really look at what's going on to try to either adjust, take something out. You got to go out and prune a little bit because some of the stuff is dead. You got to replace it. You got to plant new things. I mean, it's a constant battle of just trying to stay either upgrading, level, or drop some things off. That's what's happening.
And if you think about that, and I like the way you framed it, you're either trying to elevate and level up or let go of some things. And there was something that you had shared with me a while back that I thought was really profound, is this idea of going up a bridge. And are you dragging people with you, or are you going together up that bridge? Because sometimes when you're working with a team, and it can feel like, am I leading them? Are they coming with me, or am I dragging them behind me? And it might not be at the office per se. It might even be just other people in your life. And that's why it's so important to be mindful of who we surround ourselves with, who's in our inner circle. We might need to let them go, or we might need to go find new ones and level up those people.
Yep. And people, what I've been told is it's great. You got to surround yourself with the right people, right? And some people can take you to the bridge, and then that's it. They can't do any more. Some people can take you to the other side of the bridge, and they're done, and now you have another person. And some people can take you down afterward and past the bridge a little bit, and it's okay, because not everyone has the capabilities and the ability to move you forward, and it's constantly looking for the people that are there to help you get to the next level.
And that idea of getting to the next level comes down to our own personal development, our own personal growth that we're experiencing. And sometimes, as I have experienced, we outgrow the people around us.
Yep.
And I used to feel very guilty for that. And that would cause a lot of conflict. Personally, it would cause a lot of turmoil, especially in some what were once very close relationships. I know you've done a lot of personal development over the years as an entrepreneur. What started you down that path of personal development, personal growth?
I surrounded myself with people that were growing. There's an organization called the $1 Million Roundtable. It's part of the insurance world when I first started out. And it was about a bunch of people that wanted to be surrounded by people that could elevate them and continue to push them. And it became contagious. It's contagious in that respect, or it's also contagious if you're around people that don't want to grow and they're okay where they are. So I wanted to be around people that constantly wanted to learn and grow. And the important thing is they would share amongst each other, and it was an open share. So it wasn't like, oh, you're my competitor, I better not tell you this. It was, you can't keep what you have unless you give it away.
Let's pause on that point, because I think for some entrepreneurs, they want to hold very closely what they have gained. And it becomes very challenging for them to give that away. Where's the struggle there?
Where's the struggle for other people? Because it's not for us. I mean, I've learned this over the years.
It's not for you, but for someone who is watching and listening, they might be in that place right now that it's what they're hearing. I understand where you're coming from conceptually, but to put that into practice practically, that might be a struggle. Why might that be?
I don't know that everybody likes to share. Like, if you and I went out to dinner and we looked at the menu, we've done this before, and we both want the same thing. Do we say, hey, let's get this 2 dishes and split them? Or do you just say, no, I need that dish myself, and I am not going to split that? Some people just don't share.
Yeah. And I think in this world that we are in and will continue to move forward, particularly with the age of AI, having that mindset of not wanting to share is rooted in scarcity, that there's not enough to go around. Come back to your example of what got you into this $1 Million Roundtable to begin with. It was the way that we think. It was the way that we perceive. And if you think about, you started there, but then you've continuously invested in your own personal development. What's been the biggest lesson that you've learned about yourself along the way?
If you're green, you're growing. And if you're brown, you're wilting. So I constantly want to be growing.
Yeah. How have you grown the most as an entrepreneur?
Jim Rohn, who I actually met at $1 Million Roundtable, well, you probably know Jim Rohn, right? He's one of your idols, right?
Okay, I did not know this. So you met?
I met him. He spoke.
Jim Rohn. Okay, I've never met him. Obviously, it just a lot of hours spent with him on YouTube on long runs. I never knew that you met Jim Rohn.
Yeah, met Jim and had him speak. Did not know who he was, and was invited to hear this guy. And everyone said, "This is a man you really want to go and talk, meet and talk and hear." And so I was in awe. Did not know what to expect. And the one thing that he said was, "The more that you do work on yourself, the more that everything comes into play. It's not the opposite." And it sort of just threw us in for a loop. Like, that means whether you should be in therapy, whether self-development, 12-step program, whatever it is that you need to work on, because we are all not well.
Yes.
We all need, we all got some issues. And when you work on those issues constantly, you become a better advisor, a better husband, a better son, a better friend, because you're constantly not pointing the finger at somebody else saying, well, if you would only, then it's taking your own inventory, working on that. And if you find something, like one of my mentors says, issues that we have are like cream, and whatever rises to the top is what you need to work on. People pleasing, whatever it is, sharing. If you don't, it will show up again in another circumstance. Like an old show called Dragnet used to say, the names will be changed to protect the innocent. It's going to come back again until you learn your lesson.
It's so funny you bring up Dragnet. I remember listening to the old radio shows as a kid. It was on AM radio. And obviously these were probably aired originally, in the 30s, 40s, I would
Yeah, it was
say.
black and white. It was black and white, and it was, Joe Friday going, just the facts, man. Just the
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's just the facts because, and connect this back to Jim Rohn, like your, the investment that you make in yourself. And I think it's often one of the last investments people made. It took me 10 years as an entrepreneur to make an investment in myself. But by that point, I had created so much pain and chaos around me. I'm like, yeah, I should have waited. I should have done this a long time ago. What have been the big obstacles? Because you mentioned a couple like that connected with me: people pleasing, seeking external validation. What have been some of the obstacles that you have gained awareness of yourself, and then
You
you've
don't think
worked?
that's enough? You don't think that's enough right there? Like that right there causes, because every relationship that you have, business, family, personal, is involved in. Am I people pleasing? Am I saying what I meaning what I say, and not saying it mean? Am I letting you trample through me?
Let's pause on that. Am I saying it? Go back. Do I say what I mean? Do I
What I
mean what I
say.
say? And am I saying it mean? I've never heard it framed that way.
Yeah, I got it.
It was a good frame.
Over the years, I picked up so many of these from unbelievable people. Yeah, these are gems.
Do I do what I say? Do I say what I mean? Am I saying it mean? So that's integrity.
Yeah, it's integrity. It's also being able to stick up for yourself and be able to have a conversation. We've talked about courageous conversations before, right? And when you go ahead and say, I have to have this conversation with a business associate, I don't want to cause a controversy, but it is something very important to me. And it's, you're not going to like this.
Right.
But I have to say this so that we can get it out there and have a discussion like adults do. And there's a bulldozer way to do it. There's oh, don't worry, whatever you want, I'll just do it. And, so the other great expression is, I'll drink Drano and expect you to die.
Right.
Right. So I'll take it on. And then I'll expect, like, these are all like things that that they're people pleasing. That's tough, man. That's been the biggest one that I have really dealt with lately. It's in every aspect of my life. And I have some things going on right now where I have to have courageous conversations, and I'm trying to rehearse it, go back and forth. And I had it this week, and I didn't do it meanly. I said what I meant. I meant exactly what I said. I did not say it mean, and it went way better than it would have been if I had taken the tractor out and ran right over to him and just said, I've decided.
Yeah.
That's personal development.
Do you think you would have been able to do that 5, 10, 15 years ago?
No. I first of all, as I go through life, I feel like you're given a toolbox, right? And as you do new experiences, you get new tools. Sometimes it's a screwdriver, sometimes it's a hammer. And then eventually, you've got some years, you've got a toolbox filled with a lot of different tools. Then sometimes you pull the tool out and it's like, oh, that's got to be sharpened. That's not,
Right.
that screwdriver's not going to work anymore. It's got rust on it.
Yes.
So it's constantly trying. So I got a toolbox and I've got tools, but it's not as sharp as it should be. So I've got to go back and do some work on it, maybe replace it, maybe sharpen it, because it's the right tool, but it's not sharp yet.
When you come back to the point of people pleasing, it's funny because that actually came up in a conversation recently I was having with another entrepreneur. They were asking my advice on something. And I said, well, if you were talking to me a year ago, this is how I would have handled it and probably would have skirted the issue. You're talking to me today, I would just tell the truth. Just be honest, be kind, but just be honest. And I think that's the biggest thing that gets us in trouble is we're not honest, first and foremost, with ourselves. We lie to ourselves probably more than we lie to other people. And I think the more that we lie to ourselves, the easier it becomes to lie to other people, because it becomes easier to lie to ourselves.
Well, I also did not know that people pleasing is a lie.
Yeah.
Right?
What do
Because
you
I
mean by
am
that?
lying to myself, and I've been lying to you. So it's like you just said. And so now it's not authentic because it's not out there. And I sometimes find that. So one of my mentors would say, listen, one of us is going to be upset. It's not me. And I thought, well, that's callous. Man, that's callous. Like, really? He's like,
Right.
yeah, I have a choice, man. I'm going to tell you what it is, and then I'm not going to be upset. If you are, I'm not. So he would say, here's the hula hoop concept. I go, what's the hula hoop concept? He goes, you know what a hula hoop is, right? Yes, I do. Okay. So take a hula hoop, put it over your head, drop it down. Everything inside the hula hoop is your business. Everything outside the hula hoop is none of your business. Now figure out which one it is. Because if it's none of your business, you can't deal with it.
And there's some Stoic philosophy there coming back into control what you can control. And that's where there's another, I think there's another layer, there's another dimension, and knowing you and what you read and what you think about.
What I read? All the books you tell me to read? Is that what you meant?
Yeah. You've read some books though that I haven't read, and you make the recommendation back.
They got to be, small print with, small letters.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take a Dr. Seuss recommendation from you every now and then.
Learn a lot from all those books.
Absolutely. But so there's the personal development, but there's also spiritual development. And I think, at least for me as an entrepreneur, I never really connected those two worlds. Like, I have my business world over here, I have my family world here, I have my personal world here, I have my spiritual world here, I have my health and wellness over here. I never saw these as integrated. I always saw them as like separate buckets. And for me, seeing them as separate buckets, I think I missed a lot of growth opportunities because of that.
Well, I think you raised a good point. I personally think, forget about a religious aspect, because this is not a religious conversation.
No, spiritual.
The spiritual conversation is the one
Correct.
that I think runs the entire operation. It's the head of the corporation. It's the CEO of everything that goes on. From there, integrity, people please, all of it comes from that. And having a power greater than myself, that's not me. And by the way, is not another human being. Because there's a problem there, right? I could rely on another human being, but they're human and they have frailties and they're not perfect. And I believe when you have a power greater than yourself, it's another entity. That's the highest spirituality that you can get, from what I think. And I think that drives the bus first and foremost in every aspect.
Did you ever, I would say, separate those worlds yourself, like I was talking about?
Yeah. In the beginning, because I didn't know, right? It was an integrated part of it. I would live two lives, right? I would lose a business life and a personal life. And one day, one of the mentors said, "You're living two lives. Like you have two operating systems going on your computer. You can't do that. You've got to pick one operating system, and then from there springs out all of the different aspects, and it all comes back to the same sort of source of the operating system."
Yeah. And I like the way that you have framed this, like the higher power, the source, all flows from that, and then connects everything through everything. But there was another point that you made before I wanted to loop back around that I think it's easy to gloss over, but you use the word authenticity. Where do you see authenticity in the years to come? And the reason I'm asking this is because I've been thinking this whole thing about AI and artificial intelligence, and I think it's a great capability. I think it's, coming back to your point of the toolkit, I think it could be a wonderful tool. But at the same time, I'm looking at this and questioning a lot of things now. Okay, artificial sugars are not good for you. Artificial sweeteners are not good for you. Artificial colors are not good for you. Art, and this is back to the idea of like source,
Yep.
authenticity. What about authentic intelligence?
Yeah, listen, we were both at a seminar, right, in California, and somebody got up and made the statement, authenticity is a dying art, right?
Why? But why?
Because because there's so many you look at social media, you look at all these things, you say, "Oh wow, that's what I want to be." Well, it's fake, it's airbrushed, and so you're going after like a false god, so to speak. And if that's where you're going toward, then you're off base immediately. So there's no authenticity in that going, hey, I am who I am. I've got some frailties. I've got some warts. I've got some problems. That's okay. I'll work through them. I'm not perfect. And leading with my weakness, as we've talked about before, that's authenticity.
How do you do that? How do you show up and lead that way yourself?
You got to, like Jim Rohn said, man, you got to do a lot of therapy. You got to do a lot of therapy. You got to learn. Listen, we all have baggage. We all have things that have gone on. Childhood. It could be alcohol or drug use. It could be addiction. It could be a lot of different things. It could be just, stuff in your childhood. Now you get into adulthood. Then you have your own children. You're trying to do the best that you can with every tool that you possibly have, and no one's got the book.
It's interesting you're bringing up the idea of childhood, because I've been doing a lot of work there, kind of parenting the child. And it's interesting, too, from a psychology standpoint, from a lot of the research I've been doing, entrepreneurs have dealt with and struggled with a lot of just different issues. And I think that creates certain types of behavior, personalities, etc. But I was reading up against some of the philosophy from Freud versus Adler. And Freud, looks at like, how would you frame this? This is what happened. Let's talk about this. Adler looked at this from a different perspective of what we could probably frame more today as like the future self. Taking ownership, taking agency, taking control, but then operating from a future state that what happened in the past, it happened, but it doesn't define where I'm at now, yet alone where I'm going to go next. I can now reframe all of that and start operating from a future self that perhaps I'm the only one who knows that future self exists. No one else knows that, but I'm going to start working in alignment and integrity and authenticity towards that future self, which might make other people feel uncomfortable, which comes back to the point of why as entrepreneurs, we've got to surround ourselves with people who are always continuously growing, learning, expanding, which I do think is an entrepreneurial trait and characteristic, because that might not be the case for others who aren't in an entrepreneurial world.
Well, listen, I think it starts with this. You talked about authenticity and you talked about lying to yourself. I was listening to something this morning which made me remember. It basically said, how do you talk to yourself? Do you tell yourself you're an idiot? Do you tell yourself you cannot do certain things? And he was like, you're just putting that out like Amazon. Like you just say that, it's going to happen. On the other hand, if you say, listen, I will overcome this. I don't know. I'll figure it out. That comes too. So it is so important to be careful, like Jim Rohn would say, how you talk to yourself. And I didn't realize how often I would be saying these things and then realizing, oh, wow, I'm not achieving what I want to achieve. Well, I've just set it up where I created this negative self-talk as opposed to, so this morning I was trying to be like, he was like, say, I am grateful. I am doing okay. I can figure this out. And what that changes in the psychology and the chemistry in your body, it's unbelievable. And how often I say the opposite without even realizing it. That's authenticity.
It's funny you mentioned that, because with my kids, and it's it's easy for me to work with my kids and teach them the I ams. I am confident. I am kind. I am caring. I am courageous. Like, and I've worked with them literally since they were probably a year, 2 years old, after bath routine. Like, we would build that into the routine and to see how that has helped. But then on the flip side, I also probably have some of the negative talk track my own self. So
It's factory installed, man.
yes.
But and it's like this. Listen, you go to the gym, you work out, you know this as well as I do. I believe that's a muscle.
Correct.
And it has to be worked out. And some people are really good. They've got great talent. Like Michael Jordan was a great athlete, and he still went to the gym before anybody else and left after everybody else. There are some people that aren't as great as gifted athletes, and they just have to work harder. So you got to know which one you are. And either way, you got to work really hard at it. And so some of the things I have some gifted ideas about self-reflection. Other people have a really tough time looking in and going, that doesn't sound right. I am gifted. I don't want to say that,
I want to wrap up on this, and I want to give someone who's been watching and listening something that they can do next to continue to develop themselves. First and foremost, just as a human being, then as an entrepreneur, based upon all of your experience in this area. And I'm so grateful. I mean, like, even just, we've talked so many times. I'm still learning from you. It's like I've already pulled 2 or 3 things from this conversation that I'm going to go back and reflect on and probably do a little bit more expansive thinking. I mean, the fact that you actually were in the physical world with Jim Rohn is just, that is so cool. And I did not know that. But what would you recommend to someone watching or listening to continue to develop as a human, as an entrepreneur on their journey?
Well, so we learned when we were kids that we would ask how all the time. Hey, how do I do this? I can't do this. How do I find out? And then we had learned, you and I together, it's who, not how. Mm-hmm. So the who's, mentors, therapists, whatever, are the ones that take us through the journey much faster than us trying to figure it out ourselves. So those people who are listening right now and are struggling, look at your who's. Look at who you're being directed by. Look at who you surround yourself, right? We've learned that you're like the 5 people you're closest to. And you start looking at, do I want to fire somebody? Do I need to hire somebody? Because you will end up imitating that. So if I want to get better, I got to put around myself better people like you and other people, because you push me and I push you.
Yeah.
And left to my own devices, I'm going to sleep until 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and be like, nah, I'm okay now. I'm going to have a bonbon now and I'm good to go.
So if I can bring all that down into a phrase, upgrade your who's and you'll upgrade you.
Yep.
You upgrade your who's, you upgrade you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So go out and do some inventory on your who's.
And it doesn't stop, man. It's a daily reprieve.
Because like you said, they might be able to bring you to the bridge,
right?
But they might not be able to take you over that bridge.
So the last thing I'll leave you with is and this is a wrap up to it. It's a daily reprieve based on the maintenance of my spiritual condition.
What do you mean by that?
So I got to continually keep my spiritual condition centered on to make sure that I'm going in the right way, but it's one day at a time. Yes. So I may not be able to get it done today, but maybe I got a shot tomorrow. So it's only 24 hours. Everybody's got the same 24. So I can get better just in case.
And tomorrow's a new day.
Tomorrow's a new day. And I just do my best. Well, this has been awesome, man. This is better than I thought. I knew this was going to be good, but.
Well, hey, if someone is watching and listening and they want to connect with you, like you have already connected with them, but they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach out and say hello, make that connection to you?
Probably the best thing to do is email me. It's a simple email. It's Michael@thinkwealth, because that's what all I think about, .com. Michael,
And you do. That is what you think about. Michael at thinkWealth at wealth. And you do think about wealth. You think about the personal wealth, the physical wealth, the mental wealth, the spiritual wealth, the financial wealth. There are all these different dimensions, and I know that it is always on your mind. So if you're also thinking about wealth yourself, do yourself a favor. Connect with Michael Pine. Michael, I appreciate you joining for another episode of the Level Up Business Podcast. This has been fun, buddy.
Awesome. Thanks for inviting me. It was fun.
Now's the time. Right now. Now's the time to stop letting your self-limiting beliefs hold you back from helping others, just like Michael Pine has helped us today. That's because there are people in this world right now. They need your help. They want your help. They need your authentic intelligence. They want to learn from you. They want to watch your video. They want to read your best-selling book. So text me right now, 832-240-1922, and I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is that you can elevate your brand to increase your revenue simply by having conversations to turn video content into your next best-selling book.